and welcome again to the new edition of What's New in Intune. What are we calling it, Matthias? Is it summer edition or?
Yeah, I guess it's the summer edition. At least I know both of us have been off for most of the summer, so a lot of new stuff brought in by Microsoft, which apparently didn't have a summer break.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like it's only us who have been on the summer break, because in the meantime there has been two service releases of Intune, 2306 and 2307, and we are, while recording this, getting close to 2308. So we better get started, right?
Absolutely.
So the first announcement of the 2306 release is that organizational messages are now in GA.
Yes,
Should we
sir.
say finally? It's been a while. It's been out there in preview.
Yeah, and actually, Nikolai, it was in our 2211 edition that we actually showed you organizational messages first time. So
that's quite a long time ago.
Yeah, it is. And so if you want to look further into how it's set up and how you can configure that, I suggest you go look by that video.
Sounds like a good idea. Let's jump into the next one, because our list here is enormous.
Yeah.
So, like we're used to in these series, right? Matthias is the security geek of us. I'm the automation geek. So I'll leave this for you, Matthias.
Thank you, Nikolai. So maybe could you share my screen, because
I can do so.
You are the admin here. Is it showing anything? Hey,
it's cool. Black. There we go.
Okay, so what is the new here is that in our, it's called Entra now, not Azure Active Directory, it's Entra ID.
Oh, right. That's something that happened over the summer as well, right? Now we need to learn all the new naming conventions and products and feature names and acronyms.
I could use entra.microsoft.com instead. And as you saw, I went to the portal.azure.com. That's how I usually do it. I could use Entra, and maybe you should do that as well. But the new thing here is that it should tell me OS version here is the server, not just Windows, like we did for, until now. But the thing is, mine is actually not showing server, even though I do have a server here, still showing Windows. So I wonder why my tenant hasn't been updated for this yet. But nevertheless, it's good to have some updates here, so we can actually do better dynamic groups, etc.
Exactly, being able to separate the two types of actual objects, or client or server. Yeah, that's a good addition to this. Maybe it's one of those features that was simply just reverted or something. It caused an issue or something. Cool.
So not much more to show here.
So the next one is about the store for business and the store for education. What is going on there? Is it not closed down at this point, or?
Yeah, let me show you a little bit more here. So a big red button here showing that Microsoft Store for Business apps are no longer being enforced and will soon be deleted. So this is not something new. This is something that has been warned. And if you go to your Service Health portal, you would have been looking at these stuff long time ago. If you're not looked there, go to X, aka Twitter, and also look at all the retweets in there as well. But the thing here is that the store apps no longer will be able to apply to your devices. So if you had any store apps like this Microsoft Store for Business app, well, if you deploy it now to users or to devices, it's just going to say not applicable. But the thing is, if you have already deployed it, it will still be contained on the device, and it will still just say installed on your devices.
So if you were to make a new assignment for this targeting something, right, it would simply just show not applicable at that point. Obviously,
absolutely,
you already have the reporting state from those devices that it had installed before.
Yeah. So
I really like the banners. They are really informative, to be honest.
It is. If you haven't noticed from a service portal, you get the notice right there as you browse to the apps. So that's a good idea. And if you want company portal to be deployed, use the new integration of store apps instead. That is going to work.
Exactly. And I think we covered it in some of the previous videos. I mean, at this point, right, if you haven't deleted these apps, just go ahead and delete them. Because, make use of the new WinGet app type instead. That's way better. So
absolutely.
Cool. Good stuff. Next up, we have some updated troubleshooting and support pane in Intune. You told me just right before that they have actually made some really cool stuff in there.
I think so, at least, because, let's see if I have my demo device here, my demo user. So thing is, I want to troubleshoot something, right? The first thing I would do is going to the troubleshoot pane. I would look for, does this user have a Intune license and all that, account is enabled and stuff. If I see something here that I can quickly have this overview, I can also quickly determine what is wrong with this particular device or user. Thing here is that we now have gotten this roles and scopes, so I can actually see if the user demo was or was supposed to be part of any RBAC role to be able to work with Intune. I can quickly discover that this user is not part of the role or scope, so that's exactly why he can't operate Intune, and that's the news thing.
That is pretty cool, actually. I would probably have gone another way about it, because in terms of people administrating Intune, right? I mean, if they don't see the type of access that they expect to, I would probably not go to the troubleshooting and support pane first. I would know what user it is. I would go to the role. I would check if they are a member of it, or have them exactly check their permissions and such, and from there. But I mean, we all have different workflows. So I mean, all roads lead to Rome, isn't it? Somebody said that in the past at some point. So that's good.
Yeah, at least there is many ways to check this, but the troubleshooting pane is just being or become better and better. So I really like it.
That's cool. And the Intune suite offering the Endpoint Privilege Management has also received some updates, and I think this is one of the potentially top requested features to be added, at least from the visual ones. Right?
Do you remember, Nikolai, when Windows 11
I don't
came?
remember.
You don't remember? Okay. I'll try to make you remember.
On vacation.
So when Windows 11 came out, Microsoft did something to the right-click menu, right?
Yep, context menu.
Let's make the whole thing modern, right? So when we right-click something, you will only get a subset of what you can, and not the old menu like you have in Windows 10.
Yep.
And that was, I think, many was like, "What are you doing? You can't do this." But actually, you could just no, not even Shift right-click does the trick. But nevertheless,
like Shift Enter gave you like properties or something, right? I don't recall. I never used it. I just click go properties.
But Nikolai is the automation guy. He would probably go to PowerShell instead, because why use the UI for anything, right? But nevertheless, EPM is this new fantastic feature that helps you eliminate the need of people being local admin on devices. But currently, it only works for exe files, right? So it's not a complete tool for any use case there, but it comes a long way. The thing that is new here is that when you right-click this, before this update of EPM, you had to show more option, and then you were able to run this with elevated access. now you have that in the modern menu. And yeah, that's basically the news of the EPM. And this right-click context menu is actually a MSIX that installs on your device in the background. I have looked into the binary that is on my device here. So it's pretty fun to, yeah, look into the bits and bytes and how Microsoft is doing this. But that's the news.
Matthias, you're starting to sound like Rudy Ooms, right? Want to look into the binaries and get really deep into how they do all things. Nothing bad with that, of course. It's I'm just overwhelmed with looking at the stuff that he does. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, but I'm not into all the fiddler stuff that Rudy does. So I think we complement each other quite good because I also I have a family, so I I know Rudy has to, but sitting day in and day out and debug on DLLs and stuff like that, you really need to think that is fun before you do that. So
Yeah.
that kind of deep level, I'm not doing that, but I really want to know what happens on my Windows device when I click a button in Intune. That's where my boundary kind of goes, right?
Yeah. And the next item on the list is also around EPM in terms of reports.
Yeah.
So what have they done there? Have they added some new columns or?
No. It's actually the part where you want to export your reports. You can export everything using to a CSV, and that's actually a good thing to be able to do that. So yeah, basically, let's do that one. I can then get the CSV file, and in a bigger environment than mine, yeah, there would be a lot of rules in here, a lot of entries from whatever my users have been trying to run with or without EPM. So I can download that report as a CSV and I can get the full insight, because it can be hard, to go into this portal and actually get the overview you want. So
I mean,
being
I
able to
can't wait for this UI or this sort of experience to actually be able to let you, I don't know, go one step further, right? To create rules based on this type of reported data. That would be so much more, powerful.
So you mean simply, right click or check the button here and create a rule? That could be awesome, right?
Yeah, that's the next step.
Yeah.
So please fix. Matt, if you're listening.
Matt, if you listen.
I know he's probably aware of that. I would assume anyone would have requested that at some point.
He got a lot of insights to EPM, yeah. So, yeah. But
and we are staying on the Intune suite topic here because there's some new additions added to the remote help feature too, right?
Yeah, there is. And I'm not going to do the full demo here because everyone who have been following our programs here we went through this remote help, and the thing is, when you take over another PC, you get the actions if you want to view or you want to see full screen. So now you get this in session connection mode where you can switch between this, and that's the big news here about the remote help. But yeah, as you know, Microsoft needs to put a lot of stuff in the remote help to be able to compare itself against Log Me In or TeamViewer or whatever else kind of remoting tool we have out there. And as you said, it's part of the Intune suite. You can buy this as a separate license as well. But yeah, it makes sense if you have a lot of other systems that is also something you need in the suite to actually purchase that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm personally really waiting for macOS support. I think that's at least our top priority, to be able to essentially say, okay, throw out whatever we are using at this point, right, and replace it with remote help. That would make a really good business case. Right now, we would have to make use of two different tools, and that's just not where we want to be, right? So it's good that they're
iOS
adding new
as well.
features to this. I like it.
Yeah, it would be great to have iOS as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I recently saw that Android was also on the program here. So, but
Yeah.
we don't cover Android in this show.
We try to stay away from the mobile devices, right?
Exactly.
Let the experts on those devices do their thing, so to speak. And Endpoint Analytics is now available for government cloud tenants. That's a pretty good
good for them.
announcement.
Good for them. I mean, we've had it in. I mean, I don't have any of those customers, but we've had this endpoint analytics for a very, very long time, right?
Yeah.
And it can do some great stuff, but I still lack to understand what exactly I'm going to use it for, because what I really need, Nikolai, is a way to, okay, this is kind of my environment, but I want to do something about it, right? Why don't you give me some buttons I can click so I can remediate, or I can, yeah. So your devices reboot 5 times a month, last 28 days, right? So how can I bring that down? I need some suggestions here instead of just a report showing me something, right?
Yep. I mean, I'm looking at this as a good first step to get an overview of your sort of, for example, anomalies or what type of models you have and what application reliability and stuff. But I mean, I feel what you're saying, because it's showing me a lot of data that I don't necessarily know exactly what to do about, right? Obviously, it's going to vary from organization to organization what they really want to deal with this information. But exactly what you're showing here is something that we have been at least making a lot of use of, looking at all these event information, right? And getting a holistic overview of what actually occurred on this device. Personally, I'm not working in that type of role, making use of that data. But I mean, imagine if they bring back the battery details that they had, some extensive hardware inventory in here that really gives you a way of modifying the data and taking it to the next step, just like you were talking about. That would be extremely useful. But right now, yeah, I agree a little bit with you. It's cool to have the data in there. I just don't understand the scoring. I may be stupid. I don't know. So you have a score of 98. If I went to our production environment and I had 97, is that good or bad? I don't know.
I don't know either.
So, I mean, the scoring is not really giving me anything, in my opinion. I want the data. I want to understand the data. I want suggestions. I want remediations. I want improvements. That's analytics, in my opinion. And I think one good step in that direction is the anomalies, right? Because it's looking at something that's not really predefined. It's more like, okay, these things happen, then this happened. That's not really supposed to be happening, right? Present it to me. That's the sort of, I don't want to use the term AI here, but I think that's, maybe a good evolvement of this feature and this data that Microsoft sits on. So I think it's interesting. We'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, I agree.
And we have more security stuff for you, my friend.
We do.
Application control.
Remind me, what is that?
It's the new endpoint security application control policy. I'll be honest. We don't use application control, so I'm not that well versed in it. But I've seen some people using it. But yeah, please explain.
But Nikolai, it's actually the way to prohibit, installers that install into a system or user account. Because can you really prohibit applications that install into a user account, like Chrome, for example, or whatever application you have that is actually able to install in the portion of the user instead of touching any system files? No, right? You can't. So application control is a feature that you could actually make sure that the applications you run need some sort of rule before they can be there and user can actually execute them. So this new application control is in preview, and what it does when I create a rule and I assign that to my devices is that it actually creates a remediation script in the background. You can't see it, you can't go to remediations or anything like that. It creates it and it puts it to the devices where you assign your policy. That way it creates a managed installer, and the managed installer is there to be able to say everything I deploy using Intune is by default okay to launch on these devices. So first step here would be to say I want to audit only on my devices. When I enforce this, well, surprise, nothing is going to run on your devices. And well, trust apps from Managed Installer, that I really suggest you do. If you trust apps with a good reputation, you make use of Microsoft Intelligence.
I was
And
just going to ask a question here. I mean, because I know the concept of managed installers, but what about self-updating applications like Chrome, Edge, all those things? I don't know, 7-zip,
did you
Notepad++.
do that on purpose? You just ruined the VDAC setup here at the application control. So you want to manage your environment and you still want these evergreen to update itself? Nah, that's not a good idea. So the thing is, if you want to do that, you need some kind of certificate you can trust, or maybe do path rules and stuff. We actually have 3 good videos on the channel with Kim from Belgium, where he goes through a lot of stuff, how you implement Windows Defender application control into your environment. So I suggest that you go look at that and you get a good head start how to not do it, because yeah, there's a lot of catches here. But audit only and trusted apps from Managed Installer, and you're good to go. And from when you have that policy on your devices, these applications will be kind of known by the VDAC. And when you enforce the policy, they can then be run on those devices. One caveat, I have been at a customer where they have audits, and that has been crashing some of their installers, so they don't work anymore. So this is not a safe thing to do. You can't just put it into audit and just deploy it to everything. Do it in a ring management approach carefully.
That's a good call out. Really good. Yeah, go watch the videos from Kim. I still need to do that, I feel, if we're switching to this at least. No, I just saw something around the managed installers and self-updating applications. Obviously, yeah, it's never a good combination with that.
Another thing, Nikolai, actually, I want to call out is that the old VDAC policy that we used actually made autopilot reboot. And also when you've deployed the policy from Intune, it really wanted to reboot that device because the RAM needed to be emptied. So it was not a kind policy to put into the system. So they made this much better. But just a tip from here, if you go to the local machine software Microsoft provisioning into the SyncML, then you have a registry portion here called reboot required URIs. And this is actually the CSPs that is going to do some hiccups on your autopilot. If you deploy that to your device portion, well, guess what? The device will have an unexpected reboot, and you would have to authenticate yourself to the autopilot engine, so to speak. So it won't be a good experience for your users if you have a lot of these policies applied.
So from the VDAC perspective, that reboot issue hasn't really been solved yet. That's
This one has solved it, but the other old one didn't. That required a reboot, and there were some workarounds using custom URI there, but now we have this fantastic and good UI, and we can actually use this one, and it doesn't do the reboot.
So that is great news, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Next up, our favorite that we always joke a little bit about. Nothing about the feature itself, but we are still waiting for some larger vendors in here. Asus is a perfect vendor from at least my experience in terms of what do we call them, like home devices, or at least that's my experience to it. I've used Asus motherboards my whole life when I built my own devices or home computers. So we should test this at some point, Matthias, that it has been added. It's pretty cool. Even though, sure, they make corporate devices as well and have that sort of device setup as well. I've yet to meet a customer or be at an organization that like uses those. So I was really thrilled when I saw Asus added to this list. That's pretty cool because it gives you another aspect, right? Because I used to work for a company where they actually built custom-made like tower desktops to be able to process enormous amounts of executions with the GPUs and stuff. And obviously, you're not going to purchase a HP sort of, or I don't know, Dell motherboard for that sort of configuration and build. Usually, vendors like Asus are on, the top list of such vendors. And this gives us manageability around those things. So I think it's a really good addition to that. And it's no longer a limitation. Now we can actually control such things in terms of the firmware.
I think it's cool, and it's actually also a good excuse, I would say, to actually buy Microsoft hardware, because that has this solution built in, right? So you can configure all this and just trust your vendor that you do not have to set up a lot of stuff and instruct them to do a lot. It's simply a service you have enabled, and you make sure that happens. So let's have that into HP, Lenovo, and Dell, and then we
if you're listening,
finally,
go do
finally,
it.
Yes.
And there has been some MAM features added to Edge for Business over the summer, right? Have you tested it out? I've not had the opportunity to do it yet.
I haven't, but I know Dean Ellaby has, and I saw his demo of it. Thing is, you have to opt in for the preview. I haven't opted in because I don't have any use case really right now on the MAM for the Edge, but basically MAM is for bring your own device type of things. You want to control what kind of data you can copy from a corporate browser to other private stuff, right? So
could you say that this is the potential evolution of the Windows, what was it, information protection, MAM, something stuff that existed before?
It was called WIP, right?
WIP, right.
And the same place where you configured the MAM policies, you had the WIP. I think it was here under the exactly, under the user scope here, right? So you have the WIP, and that has gone out of support now, and MAM is typically for bring your own devices and mobile devices in. But now we have this for Edge. I'm looking forward to what can we do with Edge, and how can we manage the browser and the data in there, because that's definitely a thing we need to be able to do.
So basically, for all your MAM scenario, block the execution or don't allow browsers like other than Edge, right?
What if you logged into your company profile using your private device in Edge to get some what do I know? Something in the browser that you kind of want to get to, and then you've browsed something and you don't want those people to actually get this data out of the browser session because it could potentially be company data, right? So I think this is a good step in the right direction of protecting data.
Exactly. I mean, it's not about the previous iterations. It's the data, right? That's what we want to prevent.
Yeah.
Being leaked or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, sign up for this preview if you haven't, and give it a go if you're doing bring your own devices.
Absolutely.
Cool. And that's the end for the June release. Moving on to the July release, 2307. And I would probably say that one of the larger news, or the top 3 maybe for this video, is that the Windows Driver Update Management feature has now gone into GA. This is, to me at least, really, really exciting. I like it. What do you say, Matthias? Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. I really do. And
oh, you want to manually approve?
yeah, I do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but yeah, this is part of the Windows Update for Business deployment service. So in the back end, you kind of have another service here that is integrated into Intune using APIs. It's another team handling the deployment service, and they have other customers than Microsoft and Intune. That's why they split it up. It's good to know. Thing here is that when you implement this policy, your device is going to use the regular Windows Update function, but with a touch of I know your device. So if you use this feature, the device ID will be recognized. And once you approve a driver here, well, when you go to your device and you check for Windows updates in your settings menu, well, what happens is it goes to the regular Windows update like every other private device, but in a enterprise environment, we just know your device ID because it syncs that, and then you get your driver. So it's actually on that channel, and it's working really well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been doing what you call it, like what's it called these days? Microsoft Entra ID Join. Is that correct? Did I get it right?
Yeah, I guess so.
With Windows Update for Business, and drivers has been a nightmare from the end user perspective, especially with all the restarts, right? You could have 2, 3, 4 restarts each week, sometimes a couple of restarts per day if it's a bad day in terms of driver releases, right? Obviously, it's a good thing that there's new drivers and new updates and stuff. But still, from the end user perspective, it turns out to give you a lot of restarts. Hey, Ben, by the way, shout out. You should close the Signal app, mate.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, but like I was saying,
what?
I'm he's really eager. I'm really excited about this feature, to be honest. I think it's going to be a great management capability around drivers. One thing that has been really lacking for a long time. And I can't wait to see what David and his team brings to in terms of new features to this. I know of a few that they are working on, and one of them are my favorites. So stay tuned till that can be introduced here or shown here in an upcoming video.
Absolutely.
And we're back. Matthias had a knock on his door. We are not AI robots, you know. This is not generated AI content. We are actual people doing this. Matthias had to go answer the door.
Okay, yeah. We do need to do something manual, like this driver and review here that I like to do manual. But nevertheless, Nikolai, what do we else have on the program?
Maybe another one of those top 3 ones, on-demand
Nice.
remediation. Oh, I can't even say it. Remediation for a Windows device, right? This is so cool, and I'm super stoked that this was not added as an Intune suite feature. I have been, can you say lobbying maybe, back channels so that wouldn't happen, because I really think that that's like something that just needs to be for everyone, right? It's such a core feature to be able to run any remediation on any device when you want, with the what do we call it, like basic Intune P1 level license, like the regular one.
Yeah, I think that's a P1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a lot of tests in there. Tests.
Oh, I do. But it's good with tests. Naming standards, that is perfect, you know.
Matthias, I would like you to use the no-go demo. See what happens. What's it doing?
It sets password as a parameter or variable. Putting passwords or other things into proactive remediation scripts is just a no-go. And that is because I use
it's a really good call out.
I use this for demoing remediation. Why I shouldn't do that? Because I have a toolbox called Intune Debug Toolkit that you, by the way, can get on the MSEndpointMgr blog sites, and it can exactly just take out these informations from the client, and you can see it in clear text. So if you put secrets or passwords in your not proactive remediation, but remediation script, that's a really bad idea. So I'd suggest that you go and visit the MSEndpointMgr blog and you look into some of the blog posts there from Sandy, Jan, I think you, Nikolai, Maurice, on how to do this, how to make a secure connection, and how to, add data to sources that requires such a thing.
Yeah, I can make a call out for, I mean, originally it started with the Cloud Labs solution, right? With the help of other excellent MVPs. We rewrote a C# written sort of method of making use of the Windows device registration certificate to actually, call like a function app and actually perform a certificate-based authentication, right? And by doing that, building a middle layer, being the function app, you can actually have it validate that this request coming in is in fact correct. If you need to load data from any cloud storage or something like that. So that's really cool. I really urge you to look it out. There's a module these days. It's called AAD Device Auth. Maybe it has to be renamed like everything else. But yeah, it's really helpful. I've also delivered a few talks about how to make use of that module, and there's samples on our GitHub under the same name as the module. So check it out if you want to enhance that process.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, and while you talked, I was just, playing around a little bit with the, run on demand here. And as you can see in the IME log here, we have a agent executed at .exe that does the remediation script, and it downloads it into the cache and run the text scripts. And so that it works.
That's cool. Imagine being able to, have your help desk being able to triggering these and providing RBAC things so that they could execute certain set of scripts on a few devices, scope down to whatever they are allowed to manage and so forth. This is really useful. So great work, Microsoft, with this.
Absolutely. And Nikolai, one question for you. Is this a brand new feature, or did we know about some system prior to this that actually were able where you can right-click a device and run a script?
Are you referring to run scripts in Config Manager?
Oh, yes. It could actually do the same, right?
It could. Yeah, I mean, it's been one of those things in terms of arguments that I've used as well, right? We've been able to do this previously with Config Manager. Intune's proactive mediations, these days called remediations, really essentially took the automation pieces from the PowerShell scripts that originally was part of Intune that could simply just be executed once. That's it. It took it to the next level. You could schedule it. You could, seriously bring it to the next level by detecting and then remediating, right? And now being able to trigger it on demand, that's the next level, I think. So that's really cool. We are really closing the gaps.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And leaving remediations, even though I love them. Defender for Endpoint.
Oh.
There's some new support for Linux and macOS in public preview.
We said we were Windows people, right?
Yeah. But it's pretty cool that you can manage Linux devices, even though it's kind of limited as current with Intune. But I mean, we're really getting to the point where the sort of marketing words that was used with Intune in the beginning, like unified endpoint management, we're getting there, right? It's pretty cool.
We are, and thing is, when you're in the Intune portal, you have connectors you can set up. These connectors you can set them up to MDE. So even you don't have, for example, servers does not support being enrolled in Intune. You can actually get policies down to those servers, and you can do that by having them in MDE and then ship configurations via Intune. That's pretty cool because it then utilizes the channel that MDE is the Microsoft sensor. And you can configure that from this endpoint security overview, and there's been a lot of configurations you could do. Antivirus, for example, one of them. And it could also be kind of frustration for some people doing that from here, because it wasn't all the things you could do. You could do something with firewall, you could do something with attack surface reduction, but that was it, right? So Microsoft thought that, well, let's put that into the console that actually manages these devices. And it actually makes sense. So what we see here is just a projection of what we see in Intune, right? Because I have a fine policy named here, ASDF. Again, naming standards are pretty important here. And it's it's a Microsoft Defender antivirus policy, and you can see here the target is MDM and Microsoft Sense. So if I go here to the antivirus, surprise, surprise, I actually can see ASDF as my policy here. So this is actually just, your policies being projected into MDE.
Are you able to configure the sort of targeting in here in terms of what sort of groups should have the policies, or is that
assigned groups?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's still a Intune thing, because you have to do that.
I recall this because we had been looking a little bit about a year ago about Defender. And one of the, I mean, to me, jumping between consoles, it's a default thing, right? Just something you have to be comfortable with doing in the jobs that we have. But one of the persons that I was working with and sort of showing off Defender, to listen to what I'm saying actually with this, I was showing and demoing Defender for a colleague with little knowledge that I have. And his first reaction was more like, what is Intune? Why do I have to go there? Why can't I do it from the security console? And now you can, right? And to be honest, it makes sense, because the people working within the security teams, let's just make it easy for them. Let them have all the configuration, be able to view them, edit them, change them, whatever is necessary to complete their jobs. So I think this is extremely cool. Even though we don't use Defender, unfortunately, I mean, I can definitely understand that this is a huge feature for organizations leveraging Defender, for sure.
Yeah. But it could also be a frustration, right? Because, well, it is the Intune portal where you put the configuration, right? And why do you put that into MDE now? So I've heard both parties here, saying this is just frustrating. You can configure that from 2 places now. It's like some configurations you can do in Intune, you can do those 3 or 4 places. Now it's also open up. Now you can do the security policies here in Defender portal as well. So yeah, I hear it from both sides. It's nice to do it here. If you only are in this console, it's nice that you can do it in Intune.
But think about it from like a large organization's perspective, right? I mean, I know for a fact that there are organizations out there with dedicated like cyber defense teams, right? Enormous resources goes in there. They don't know what Intune is. They know what antivirus policies are. They would like to have access and manage such on different systems and control that. And me as the Intune administrator, I don't deal with that. I would gladly hand over that responsibility for them to manage it for me. I can ensure that they are, enrolled, all those things, so that they show up in the console, they are healthy, all those things. But that's where I think that the sort of responsibilities, that's the breaking point between those two things. So I think this is a cool thing. I can understand it if you're maybe the type of person that is doing both, right? Then it doesn't really make any sense. Then it doesn't provide any additional value, and it's potentially just confusing. But then don't look at it from here. Look at it from where you like to look at it, right?
Right here.
Nobody's enforcing you to go in there, so
Nope.
I think it's a good enhancement. To be honest, I like it. The next thing on our list here is some insights, and I think maybe this is one of the first iterations that we are starting to see in this whole new artificial intelligence world that sort of just exploded at the end of last year. Now everyone is talking about AI and such, and Intune hasn't really had that much news in that regards, but maybe this is the first iteration. I'm not really sure, but it at least feels like it. Because, I mean, the security baselines, they're great. And we apply them with a certain set of values. But how do you apply them, Matthias? Right?
Probably the
If you
same
had
way
all
as...
those things combined, like other, types of companies within the same sort of sector, they are applying these configurations. Maybe you should consider to do the same, right?
Mm-hmm. And right there, Nikolai, you actually told us what this insight is about. It is
Exactly.
AI agent, right? And we see it with this green light saying that if there is any controls here that has gathered enough data, and there's no privacy control or anything you should be afraid of here. It is only gathering some stuff that doesn't matter to your organization. But what it gives me is that when it has enough insights, it's going to say organizations like yours configure the setting to enabled. So what is a organization like mine? Well, this is a test tenant, so not really a organization, but thanks for the insight though. So I can now add settings that, well, companies on my size is actually also enabling. So this insight is pretty cool actually, because you can learn from others and what they set to deal with
I
stuff
think
on edge.
it's really important that we just call it out. This is an insight, or maybe not even the word of recommendation, but it's giving you an idea of what others have selected to perform in terms of the different settings in here. I mean, always make your own choice. Select what it makes sense in your organization. That's the important part. But I really like the way that, these sort of things that is like learning from all the massive amounts of data that Microsoft has. I think it's really interesting. So I'm super eager to see what they can actually bring to the table with features like this.
Plus that you just want to get started fast, right? So how do you get started fast? You get started by having templates. You get started by having insights. You get started by having someone else's insight to something they configured, right? And then you go on from there.
And remember, this is a security baseline. It's a recommendation from Microsoft and other vendors out there how you should do it. And I mean, if there is something that, let's say, all the other companies does that is different to the baseline, that's a really good insight, because there might be an issue by doing that, right? It's a common issue that you would be that you would not be able to experience if you follow the sort of insights, right? You would not fall into that pit of running into the same sort of problems. Perhaps you may not know that prior, but I mean there is some value to the insights for sure.
Absolutely.
So good, cool insights. We like it.
Yeah, more of AI, please.
More of AI for sure. Bring it. But we also have some updated reports about compliance.
We do device compliance. So yeah, so Nikolai, reporting is really hard to deal with, because there is so many places there. You have reports, you have devices, monitor, and then you have all sorts of reports. You have apps, you have monitor, you have all sorts of reports. You have reports, and here it is, device compliance.
And now you have a new device, this preview experience that has its other types of report. It's a mess. Honestly, Microsoft, fix it. One way, one method.
So we have these two new reports in here, and we can go and look at the settings. We have to generate that. That is, by the way, the new way Microsoft is building their reports. Instead of building a report for you, you build it on demand when you need the data. It's fetch the data, it gets you the data. It makes sense. So yeah, so this is basically what you have. You have compliant devices. You have 5 that is active. I don't have any in here that is not active. I have 3 of them that has a policy assigned and 2 doesn't. And yeah, and then I have a Windows 10 platform, and later here, which have 9 compliant devices. Okay, so that's a bit different from my 5 active devices. So meaning I have a couple of devices that are, probably should be deleted by some cleanup rules. But that's good insight, I think. You click it, you see.
It really makes it easy to dig into if there's any sort of issues or anything like that. So that's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. And in 2307, there were additional EPM or Endpoint Privilege Management support added for elevating child processes. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is cool, because before, when you kind of created a rule, there was this thing. If you kind of created a rule saying, I want help desk to be able to launch CMD. Okay, so
install.bat file, right?
if you do that, CMD is probably a bad example, because you can do so much bad damage from having administrative privileges in CMD.
I think you should create a rule for the auto exit CMD file or bat file that existed way back in time.
Yeah.
I used to have a lot of fun with that in various places. That was fun. Anyways.
Yeah, but the thing now is that we can allow all child processes to run elevated. So if you created a rule for such a app and it spawns child processes, those would before run with the same elevated process, right?
And it could be like when an application installer installs Visual C++ applications, that's a separate installer most likely generally. So for those types of scenarios, this is a really good addition, I think.
Absolutely. So now you're able to deny that, or you can, say that it needs its own rules, something like that. It's really good.
It's good. And there's also a PowerShell module for this now, which I haven't looked into, and I feel bad.
Oh, you should feel bad, Nikolai. But once you enroll your device, it actually installs a EPM agent on your device. this EPM agent creates a lot of folders there, and it sits there to be able to pick up whatever policy you come with. So the EPM tool here, you have a DLL that you import, and then you'll be able to run a lot of CMD-lets. And if you go into the README document, you can see that what we can get from that is elevation rules, policies, client settings, WinDC documents, and declared configurations coming down to the device, what the EPM agent processes, and elevation rules. So when you start using EPM, it can be hard to kind of get started. But this PowerShell module makes it really neat to get started with EPM rules, etc. So
but also troubleshoot if anything, if you created a rule, right, and it's not behaving as you expect it to do, or it's maybe not showing up yet, or do you have the rule by another version that you may change to? So it gives you a lot of sort of local troubleshooting capabilities as well. So yeah, that's a great addition.
Yeah.
Sweet. And last but not least in our video for today is the changes that's coming to the Windows PowerShell scripts within Intune in terms of the behavior of how it's going to be executed by default.
So,
but you have control, so that's good.
We have control. And yeah, the thing is that before, the behavior here was that the run this script was using the logged on credentials. It said no. And the enforce script signature check, it also said no. So that was the default rule here when we use this kind of PowerShell template. That's simply it's not a big news. So yeah, if you don't want it to use
it is a change though that you need to be aware of, because if you have in the habit of simply just clicking next quite fast after you have simply just selected your script file, pay attention to this, that this is happening or this has changed. I don't honestly know why. It feels like it's some sort of regulatory or other type of thing that are forcing them to make these things. But as you can see, you can still select no if you want to run it in system context, or don't sign your PowerShell script and these things. So I think it's cool though that it's not automatically set to 64-bit as default though. That to me is just weird.
Yeah. To me, it sounds a bit like, when I delete something and it says, are you really sure you want to delete this? Yes. So
confirmation. Yes.
It's the confirmation kind of
run
thing.
It in system context. Yes.
Yeah.
They should have a banner instead.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And that's all. We've gone through the enormous list.
Yeah, that was what we could brew on these two editions of Intune news, and I think Microsoft been busy these 2 months in the summer break, and I really look forward to what happens in the next.
So do I, and I can see you have some friends there, so let's cut it out. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, everybody. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.